As a flight medic with the 160th SOAR, I've seen my share of bad days. But one sticks with me. One of our own went in hard on a night jump. When I got to him, it was bad, a screaming open femur fracture. In the chaos that followed, I learned two brutal lessons. The first was about my gear. I slung open my aid bag, ready to work, and immediately created a yard sale of medical supplies right next to my bleeding brother. This wasn't a scraped knee. This was the moment that decides if he walks away or bleeds out in the dirt. I'm happy to tell you after about a year, he did walk away. Or maybe I should say, he limped away and even got back on jump status. But that night, I learned a poorly packed kit is worse than no kit at all. As I fought to get the bleeding under control, one of our MH-47s circled back for the evac. The rotor wash was like a hurricane, and in an instant, all my loose, disorganized gear was just gone. The second lesson, under duress, a casualty isn't just a patient, they're a liability to the team. When your buddy rips open your IFAK to save your life, the last thing they need is to be blinded by a face full of band-aids and useless junk. Today, we're going to diagnose the most dangerous mistakes I see in prepper IFAKs. And then, we're going to fix them for good. Before we touch a single piece of gear, we need to correct the biggest mistake of all, and it's a mental one. Most people fundamentally misunderstand the purpose of an IFAK. Your IFAK, your individual first aid kit, is not a general purpose boo-boo kit, it is a dedicated trauma kit. Its one and only job is to be used on you, by a buddy, to stop you from dying from the big three: massive bleeding, a collapsed lung, or profound shock. Treating those is the mission. The problem is, people treat their IFAK like a junk drawer, just like I did. It gets crammed with antiseptic wipes, painkillers, and little packets of antibiotic ointment. The moment my kit popped open on that drop zone, a smorgasbord of useless supplies blew everywhere. Picture your friend, hands slick with your blood, frantically digging past a dozen blister pads to find the one thing that can stop you from dying. The fix is a core principle. Get two kits. One is your ouch pouch or general first aid kit. Fill it with all the comfort items you want. Keep it in your vehicle or your main pack. But your second kit, your IFAK, must be lean, focused, and memorized. Life-saving gear only. Anything else is a liability. This brings us to the next critical failure. Once you've stripped out the junk, your kit must be built on the pillars of trauma care. What's missing? In my experience, it's always the tools to treat the biggest, fastest killers, massive hemorrhage, and penetrating chest trauma. That open femur fracture I dealt with could have killed that man in under 3 minutes. Without the right gear in your kit, your buddy is just a bystander to a preventable death. Back then, we had to improvise. We drilled using the old GI issue BDU belt as a makeshift tourniquet. If you cranked it down with a windlass, it could work. But today, there's absolutely no excuse for improvisation. These are the non-negotiables. First, you need real COTE CCC approved tourniquets. Not the fakes from Amazon. I'm talking about a CAT, a SOFT, or a SAM XT. You have 4 limbs, so you need at least 4 tourniquets accessible, plus a 5th that is used exclusively for training. For wounds in the groin or armpit where a standard TQ won't work, you need a junctional tourniquet. Carry one and have a second one to train with. Second, for bleeding control, you need at least 3 emergency trauma dressings, also known as Israeli bandages, to apply direct pressure. Get a 4th one for practice. You also need a primary hemostatic agent like QuickClot or Celox, and at least 2 rolls of standard compressed gauze for wound packing. Third, chest injuries. I can tell you from experience, vented chest seals don't stick well to sweaty, bloody skin. Pack a small, super absorbent towel to wipe the area dry. You need a minimum of 2 chest seals, assuming an entrance and exit wound, but 4 is better. And for a tension pneumothorax, a sucking chest wound that's killing your patient, you need a 14-gauge needle and catheter for decompression. But here's where people really get it wrong. You don't just carry 1 or 2, you need to carry 6. Let me be clear, 6 needles. Why? Because a lung can reinflate, requiring a second attempt. You might have injuries to both sides of the chest, a needle can get clogged or bent in the chaos. You carry 6 so you have options when the first one doesn't permanently fix the problem. And of course you need an additional set used only for training. Finally, you need trauma shears to cut away clothing and expose these injuries in seconds. Alright, the next fatal flaw, accessibility. You can have the best stocked IFAK on the planet, but if the person trying to save you can't get to it, it's just dead weight. Here's what I see constantly. An IFAK buried deep inside a 50-pound rucksack. In the 160th, we live by our SOPs. Your gear is part of a system. The I in IFAK means it's your individual kit, but it's designed for your teammate to use on you. If you're unconscious, your buddy can't ask you where your kit is. They don't have time to ditch your pack and start digging while you're bleeding out. Remember that MH-47's rotor wash? If your equipment isn't physically secured to you, it can vanish in an instant. The fix requires discipline. Your IFAK must be on your body, not in your pack on you. Mounted on your belt, your plate carrier, or an ankle rig. It has to be in a standardized, predictable location that can be reached by someone else with either hand, no matter how you fall. And your primary tourniquet and trauma shears, they shouldn't be inside the pouch. They need to be the most accessible items you own. Stage them on the outside of your kit, secured with rubber bands, or in a dedicated holder where anyone can rip them free and go to work. Seconds count. Don't make your rescuer waste them fighting zippers and buckles. This last mistake is the most dangerous because it's rooted in ego. It's the delusion that owning the gear makes you qualified to use it. Let me be brutally honest. As a former flight medic, an ICU nurse, and now a nurse practitioner, I can tell you this. Carrying medical gear you aren't trained to use is lethally irresponsible. An improperly placed needle for a chest decompression can kill someone faster than the injury itself. Back on that drop zone, we knew how to make that BDU belt work as a tourniquet because we had drilled it relentlessly. The skill was more important than the specific gear. Buying the tools of my trade does not make you a medic. That's why for every major piece of gear, you must have an identical one for training. This is not a suggestion, it's a requirement. Don't forget the basics. Like nitrile gloves, your rescuer's safety comes first. The fix is humbling but non-negotiable. Get professional, hands-on training. Then build your kit to match your proven skill level. A weekend stop the bleed course is the absolute bare minimum. To properly carry and use the kit we've outlined today, you need a tactical casualty care course or higher. You need to get certified. Training builds the muscle memory to perform under extreme stress. More importantly, it gives you the critical thinking skills to know when, why, and how to intervene. A well-trained person with just a tourniquet and gauze will save more lives than an untrained person with a bag full of advanced tools they can't deploy correctly. Your skill is the software. The gear is just the hardware. Let's bring this home. A properly built and deployed IFAK follows 4 simple rules. 1. It's for life-threatening trauma, not boo-boos. Keep it lean and organized so your buddy can work fast. 2. It must contain the core components to control massive bleeding and manage chest trauma. Multiple modern tourniquets and junctional options, pressure dressings, hemostatic gauze, and a complete chest injury system. 3. It must be on your body where a rescuer can get to it and its contents in seconds. And 4. Your skills must always exceed your gear. If you are not certified and proficient with an item, it does not belong in your kit. Go take a hard, honest look at your IFAK. Right now, does it follow these rules? Don't be fooled by the false confidence a bad kit provides. The lesson I learned on that drop zone is one I carry with me every day. Your life, or the life of someone you love, will depend on it. If this was useful, subscribe for more no-nonsense preparedness. Many of the stories and lessons I share here come from my experiences in the service, and I've gone into much more detail in my audiobook, My Journey as a Combat Medic. The link will be in the description. But my final call to action is this. Find a certified hands-on medical course near you and sign up. It is the single best investment in preparedness you will ever make. Night Stalkers don't quit. Death waits in the dark.